Okay, I've wanted to tackle this on this show more than anything else. I think astrology is BS.
Okay, wait a second.
And I'm not friends with people who really believe it.
Sure, that's the thing. There are so many people who really buy into this. The thing about it is that I give the same respect and credence to it as I would almost any other faith, because to me, arguably, it has more tangible evidence than almost any other religion.
Please.
At least the sun exists and stars exist. I'm like, all right.
When I look in the newspaper and I look under Taurus and it starts saying, you know, they really like to eat. Sometimes they're a little lazy.
Who doesn't?
So I would like to define things starting off. The definition of the zodiac is whatever constellation falls behind the sun during such month. The sun goes through a path across the sky called the ecliptic, and the constellations fall behind that. There are actually 13 zodiac constellations. It's always been there. But my problem with astrology is that they conveniently omitted the 13th one, which falls between Scorpio and Sagittarius. Therefore, they could assign 12 of them evenly to 12 months. But the sun doesn't spend equal amounts of time with each constellation, so it's all fabricated.
At its root, astrology, of all of them, it's not the worst. It is the foundation of astronomy. It's been around since 3rd century BC. And it is based on mathematical patterns and trigonometry, and so I can't totally hate it. Personally, I mean, obviously it doesn't determine your religion. But I think people hate on it because it's predominantly loved by women, and anytime women love something, like
it's true. I think
more women,
way more women.
Queens, which I don't agree with them, but they didn't start any war. They didn't start the Crusades. They aren't in a terrorist cell.
No, okay, it's better than religion.
Well,
got it.
Yeah, it's like it's not the worst thing.
It's less harmful, in my opinion.
Weren't there allegations that J-Lo fired her dancers because they were a sign that she didn't like?
Jennifer Lopez held an audition for dancers for one of her tours. She walks in the room and she said, if there are any Virgos in the room, can you just raise your hand? She looked at them and she said, thank you so much for coming.
That's ridiculous.
Allegedly.
That's ridiculous.
Allegedly.
So Megan Fox was on Jimmy Kimmel, and this is what I'm talking about. It's just ridiculous.
My moon is placed in the sign of Leo, so that's something that I associate with. Leo is sort of that's the sign that's always in the spotlight. In ancient times, they didn't separate it from astronomy. They considered astrology and astronomy equally as relevant and important. And it wasn't until like the Middle Ages where we started making advancements in science where it was sort of put off as a charlatan trade. Before that, it was really respected, and I think that there's something to it, although we don't have all the information, which makes it easy for people to sort of take advantage of.
There is some truth in that, like ancient cultures looked to the sky for thousands of years. You look for the ancient Maya. And they looked for things like Venus as the morning star, Venus as the evening star, and they thought that had meaning to it. But of course it doesn't. I mean, I go with what Jim Morrison said. He said, I am a Sagittarius, the most philosophical of the signs, but I don't believe in it. I think it's a bunch of myself.
How can the sun, the moon, and the stars have an effect on our personality? Like from a cycle, how does that work?
It doesn't.
Let me describe to you the conundrum I've posed to every adamant astrologist. I tell them, look, if I am, let's say my mother when she was pregnant and she's flying across the international date line at the time that she's giving birth, and you're right in the middle of two signs, and you would have been born in this sign, but you crossed over the international date line, and now you're in a different date and a different sign. Does that then alter my personality and my future? And nobody has an answer for it.
And to throw an entirely different wrinkle in this is just Western culture's version of it.
Yeah.
There's Eastern culture, Chinese horoscopes and all that.
Even in Indian culture, we call it Vedic astrology. It actually takes into account precession, which is the Earth's wobble over 26,000 years. So it's slightly more accurate. They arrange marriages based on this.
They arrange marriages?
Yeah, and when they're gonna get married. I'm not saying I agree.
For all those people out there that think astrology is just plain and just cut and dry and generic, it's not, especially when you get into the rising, the moon, the Mercury, and the Mars. It really will tell you a lot about yourself.
A lot of people blame their negative attributes based on this, oh, I'm a Leo, so I cheat. No, you just
Whenever somebody brings it up to me and I'm like, well, I don't really believe in it, and they're like, what's your sign? I'm like, well, I'm an Aquarius. They're like,
oh,
that's
that makes
why.
sense.
Like,
I hate that.
Do that. You
I hate
can't
that.
weaponize it against me.
Didn't Nancy Reagan use astrology to help
for
guide?
everything.
Yeah.
She wouldn't fly. She would tell Ronnie about, here's what you need to do today.
She cut that one smaller. Here, take mine and I'll trade.
No, that's bad luck.
I have learned not to argue with her superstitions.
Astrology ran our country for 8 years.
I just want to make sure we don't get this heated about any other faith or religion on the planet. That's my point.
It's really true that we can scoff at this, but you're really not allowed to scoff at religion.
Right. It's unfair. This is just as old.
Ashley, do you believe in astrology?
No, absolutely
Okay,
not.
what
But
the
I don't
hell?
believe in any of it. So it's like, of course I don't.